The Secret Life of Salmon. Last time, we covered the beginning of the salmon life cycle for both wild and hatchery fish.
We discovered how wild hen salmon build something like a nest in the stream bed, called a redd. We saw how eggs are laid and fertilized, and how embryos hatch from those eggs to become alvin. We also discovered how this process is carried out in hatcheries to fertilize eggs, grow embryos that turn into alvin, and are then released into streams as smolts.
Each stage of life the young salmon survives increases its chances to get lucky and be in the 1% of its generation that makes it back home to spawn. Let's see what happens in the next episode of The Secret Life of Salmon. There are still thousands of very young wild alvin right down there, consuming the food from the nutrient-rich yolk sacs, growing bigger and getting ready for their epic journey to the sea.
After the alvin have consumed the remaining nutrients in their yolk sac, they must begin hunting for their own food. They have now changed into what are called fry. Fry leave the relative safety of the redd and swim towards the stream surface in search of food. To do this, they use a natural balloon called a swim bladder inside their body that they can inflate and deflate to help them move up and down in the water. They take a big gulp of air as they break the surface of the water to inflate their swim bladder and let it out to sink back to the bottom. They'll use this adaptation the rest of their lives.
Because they are not strong enough to swim upstream, fry drift downstream until they find log jams and large rocks that slow the current, forming pools and creating safe havens where they can rest and feed. Since all the food in their built-in lunchbox is now used up, they must learn how to swim and survive on their own. This is a rough classroom to grow up in, but lessons learned here mean the difference between life and death.
In these pools, the fry establishes a small feeding territory of its own and learns how to defend it from other fry. Salmon are visual predators. They rely on their sense of sight to catch their prey. When hunting, fry catch land insects that fly close to the water or fall from overhanging plants. Fry also catch insects that live in the water. As fry grow, they develop stripes on their bodies, called paw marks, which help to camouflage them in the ripples and shadows of their stream. At this stage, the fry are learning everything they can about the place they were born.
The wild fry actually memorize their home waters through a process called imprinting. They learn details about their surroundings, like the type of rock and soil in the riverbed, as well as plant life and other aquatic species that live there. They do this by building a very important base of knowledge called a smell memory bank as they move downstream to the ocean as young fish. This knowledge will become very important later in life.
As fry get bigger and stronger, they become smolts, the next stage in the salmon life cycle. Like eggs and alvin, fry and smolts need fresh, flowing, cold water, with plenty of oxygen and shade to keep the water from getting too warm.
These tiny fish are favorite snacks for a number of predators, like bigger fish, birds, and small animals. This deep pool, shaded by big rocks and overhanging tree limbs, makes a great place for fry to hide and feed. 9 out of 10 salmon won't survive past this stage of life. As if life isn't tough enough for the aspiring salmon, people also cause changes to streams that make it even harder to survive.
As we mentioned earlier, the ideal conditions for developing salmon are clean, cold, fast-running, oxygen-rich water. Humans can affect water quality and the life of salmon in very big ways. Things like warming caused by dams, pumping too much water out of rivers, and climate change all affect living conditions for salmon. Other human-caused effects like mud, rocks and debris from logging, chemicals from factories, and sewage from houses can both poison water and cause streams to flow too slowly or disappear altogether. Hatchery fry and smolts have very different early lives than wild fish. Instead of hunting bugs, they are given food by hatchery workers, kind of like how you might feed your pet fish. This food contains shrimp, algae, and other nutrients. Hatchery salmon develop the same parr marks as wild fish, but have less of a need to hide because there are no predators at the hatchery. However, like their wild counterparts, hatchery fish still must compete with their siblings for food. Hatchery-raised smolts are released into nearby streams when they are about 4 months old. They go through the imprinting process in their holding tanks, like wild fish do in their natal streams. This is the reason they return to the hatchery where they were born and raised during spawning season. Generally, hatchery salmon don't survive as well as their wild relatives because they have no practice avoiding predators or adapting to environmental challenges.
We've arrived where the freshwater salmon river is about to enter the sea. Here, young salmon encounter brackish water, a mixture of fresh water draining from the land and salty water from the sea. This brackish water helps the young smolts gradually adapt to increasing levels of salt. This place, where fresh and salt water come together, is called an estuary.
Estuaries contain a network of narrow, complex channels that provide smolts shelter from birds and other predators. However, the danger never goes away because estuaries are also home to a new group of bigger predators, like seals, otters, and large birds that the smolts must now learn to avoid in order to survive. The smolt's skin also changes at this stage, from dark with stripes to light and shiny, which will provide better camouflage when they enter the sunny, open waters of the ocean. The continual mixing of fresh and salt water offers young salmon a place to gradually adapt to the demands of switching from a life in freshwater to one in the sea. The smolts do this by adjusting the ability of their blood and organs to tolerate higher levels of salt. These changes gradually allow them to become more capable of absorbing and releasing excess salt, which prepares them to breathe in the ocean.
Yet another amazing superhero feat. Their whole way of breathing and means of survival changes in this very place, the estuary. Okay, you probably know where we're headed next, right? The young smolts have finished their next step of adaptation and are ready to head out to the sea, onward to the ocean.